This is Michele Jaco, host of the Inside the Chapters podcast for the novel When I See the Wolf Ride. And here's a recap of what happened in Chapter 7 of Book 1. Captain Avigdor, Hershey, Wolf, Snake, and Lee meet another member of the captain's team, Art, who is an Italian explosives expert with a very long name. Then they encounter two Russian men at a river who have come to pick up Snake and the truck driver. They kill Snake and take Hershey prisoner, forcing him onto a raft. Lee goes with Art on his raft to follow them as Wolf swims up the river. The men have taken Hershey into a large cave. Art and Lee follow them, but are captured by the two Russians who are working under a man who claims he is a U.S. Army colonel. As the colonel tries to persuade them he is not a traitor and that they must divulge the whereabouts of Captain Avigdor, Wolf is captured as well. But Wolf confronts the fake colonel with evidence that he really is a traitor. The colonel kills Wolf and then brings Hershey, Art, and Lee to the opening of the cave, which has a 60-foot drop.
The colonel motioned to Vlad.
Get them up.
The Russian soldier jerked each of us to our feet.
Over there.
The colonel motioned the Russian to push us to the opening of the cave, right at the cliff over the 60-foot drop. He turned us so that our backs were to it, facing him. The colonel walked to me and put his revolver to my temple. I could feel the heat from the gun.
Your turn, son. For the last time, where is Captain Avigdor in the cave, and how much does he know?
I gave this murderer my best tiger stare. It would be an honor to join Wolf with our ancestors.
Welcome to the audio production of the novel When I See the Wolf Ride, Book 1, Chapter 8. Copyright 2024 by Jeffrey Lee Neal. Read by the author. And now, here is Chapter 8 of When I See the Wolf Ride, Book 1.
Chapter 8. Imminent Danger. From the Bible. My friends, don't be surprised at the painful things that you are now suffering, which are testing your faith. Don't think that something strange is happening to you. 1 Peter 4:12. It was a moment eerily like the one when Bosner had the gun to my head. At that time, I had only contemplated my own death, but now with my friend lying in a pool of his own blood, I felt nothing but rage. It seemed like forever, waiting for his bullet to leave the chamber.
No, don't do him next, do me. I know the answer.
It was Art's voice, interrupting my moment of tiger staring at the colonel. The colonel took his gun from my head and faced Art, who had his head pointed downward, almost as if in prayer.
Son, I don't even know your bloody name.
Art still stared at the cave floor.
My name is Arturo Fausto Ernesto Alejandro Leonardo Fernando Hosea Zekrisacri, and I...
Then Art looked up at the colonel with his own tiger stare, pulling his hands from behind his back. Now untied, as if by magic, Art's left hand was holding a live grenade, and the other was holding its pin, which had been pulled.
I'm stuck raving mad.
The colonel yelled at the Russian behind him.
Grenade, better.
He ran for the back of the cave, as did the other man. Art threw the grenade across the cave, past them, right at his bag of playthings. Then he turned, grabbing Hershey and me by our shirts, pushing us out over the edge of the cliff. I was falling. The next moments felt as if they were in slow motion. It was surreal to observe the huge opening of the cave growing smaller as I fell away from it. It was now a beautiful day, with an emerald blue sky above us and the sound of insects from the landscape below us. Still falling, I saw vivid orange fire emerge from the cave, and then deafening multiple explosions. A larger ball of fire and black debris followed, virtually enveloping my view of the blue sky. Some of the debris looked like body parts. I glanced at Hershey, who was terrified, flailing around, but Art was grinning at me, as if he had no fear at all. Even though I was falling, witnessing explosions, it was peaceful, like resting on a pillow of air as I waited for the inevitable. Everything went black. I don't know for how long. I could not breathe. I was choking. I felt myself flailing. My training kicked in. As if by instinct, I used my legs to swim upward. I gasped as I reached the surface. Art was pulling Hershey to shore. I couldn't tell whether he was alive. As I got my bearings, I looked up to the mouth of the cave. The smoke was dissipating quickly. Just under the huge opening of the cave, I saw a figure clinging to the rock wall below. It was Captain Avigdor, scaling the wall to come for us. When I finally made it to shore, Art was trying to bring Hershey around. I wanted to help him, but I was still choking, spitting up water, and trying to get my hands loose. I saw Captain Avigdor pull himself up into the mouth of the cave, as most of the smoke was gone. So was Wolf, and maybe Hershey. Captain Ed Avigdor, hanging on the rock wall under the opening to the cave, saw 3 men fall past him. He felt heat. He looked up to see fire coming from the cave, and then came the deafening sound of the blasts. He turned his head to the basin. The men were moving in the water. There was hope. As he made his way into the cave opening, he was confronted with the stench of death. It reminded him of a slaughterhouse he visited once when he was a child. His father, a butcher by trade, had wanted him to experience a taste of reality. Encountering a reality where walls were covered with layers of blood and the air was dense with the rancid stench of death made him vomit. It still did. He would never again say more than this about what he found in those moments. There had to be radio gear somewhere. Something told him time was of the essence. God had given him those feelings in the past, and they were rarely wrong. He came to the river inside the cave. There were rafts, but no other sign of life. As I managed to get my hands free and my wits back, I could see Hershey coughing and spitting. Art was laughing at him.
You should feel good. Ha ha.
Hershey was still recovering, struggling to get his breath.
In Italian, that means the river gave you an enema.
Hershey frowned.
Man, you saved our lives. How'd you know there was water down here?
Art grinned.
No lo sapevo. I didn't.
I wondered if he was serious or if he really was stark raving mad. If Art was not serious before, he became serious now.
Your friend, Private Thomas, is probably using a radio to detonate the explosives at the Da Nang Air Base. Radio?
Hershey could speak better now, finally getting to his feet. Art nodded.
It is a new technology. In order to detonate, he has to have his transmitter close enough to the explosives to receive the signal. He's probably on his way to the base now. We need to get there before he does.
That's all I had to hear. Well, let's go. Art stopped me.
Not you. Remember, you're dead.
How could I forget that?
Find Captain Avigdor and get to the radio room your friend Wolf mentioned. You need to hurry.
He turned to leave with Hershey, then glanced back.
In case we don't make it in time.
It appeared our present location was approximately a half-mile from where we had originally parked the truck. Captain Avigdor had the keys, but when we got there, Art hotwired it in a matter of seconds. They waved to me as they sped away. I didn't have the strength to swim the river, so I followed the shoreline. It was slow and rough going because of the brush. Then I noticed a cable attached to a small antenna at the mouth of the cave. I followed the cable to a radio room that was actually a smaller cavern. There were batteries, lights, and a console making noise with chatter. And then I heard it.
Aries 1100. Aries 1100. Do you copy? Aries 1100. Aries 1100. Do you copy?
I grabbed the mic. Aries 1100, go ahead. Silence for a moment. And then...
Who is this? Put Colonel Reeves on.
I could not hold back. Colonel Reeves can't speak to you, or anybody else. Zap, I know this is you. I know you and your driver killed Sarge and Burns.
You're going to pay dearly for what you've done. I will not stop hunting you until I find you.
Another moment of silence. Then,
Not if I find you first.
You want to fill me in on that?
Captain Avigdor was standing at the entrance of the radio room. I filled him in on everything. Captain Avigdor went to the mic, dialed in a frequency, and spoke in code. Numbers and words I didn't recognize. There was no answer. He repeated the code. Still no answer. Again. Just radio noise. There was a fourth, fifth, and sixth repeat. Then the radio responded like a voice from the dead. It was another code. Avigdor answered with a third code. The radio acknowledged. Avigdor switched frequencies. This time the voice responded immediately. Now Avigdor spoke English, warning of the bombs hidden at the airbase, of Zap coming to detonate them, giving them a concise rundown of everything we knew. Finally, the radio voice read another code. Avigdor stopped for a moment, clearly shocked.
Repeat and confirm.
The voice repeated the code.
Can you assist?
Not immediately.
Avigdor ended the transmission and, clearly upset, turned to me.
That was Leo Hunt, my immediate superior. I think they'll be able to stop Private Thomas and find the bombs.
There's something else. What?
That last code was an emergency code. There have evidently been troop movements. It means the orphanage is in imminent danger.
That concludes Chapter 8. We invite you next to read the PDF or listen to Chapter 9, entitled The River Ride. We also invite you to listen to our podcast for Chapter 8, in which Michele Jaco talks with Jeff Neal about the story, the characters, and the symbolic elements within the chapter. Music for this production was licensed from the Smart Sum collection, and cover art was created from Adobe stock images. Some voice work was enhanced by AI technology from 11 Labs.